So one of the best books for sure I read was going to be Living with the Seal with Jesse Itzler. For those of you that don't know, Jesse Itzler, he's married to Sarah Blakely, and she started a little company called Spanx, built it to $1 billion company. Jesse has a very interesting story. One of the best things about the book is the story, right? There's like at the end of the day, you have this entrepreneur that goes and lives with one of the toughest men on the planet, but and he's very successful. I think it was coconut Zycon water. He sold the Coca-Cola, which was one of Jesse's many amazing accomplishments. Really, really expert when it comes to entrepreneurship. You can see kind of the evolution. So in the book, you see the evolution of Jesse's kind of backstory of what he did to become successful to now be one of the owners of the Atlanta Hawks. He's had his own methodology that I think imprisons principles that are usually associated with people being successful. Like perfectionism, overthinking things, taking the shot, stuff like that. But there's a lot of things that you could read the book, and there's probably 7 or 8 real huge takeaways that I got. One of the things is when I read the book, obviously, it was the commitment to the decision because, Jesse cold calls, which was later to be called David Goggins. Why they left his name out of the original book, I don't know. I actually met Jesse and can say from a personal testimonial, best speaker I've ever seen speak at a conference. Number one, that was after I read the book, and number two, one of the nicest guys. I did a Mount Everest simulated Mount Everest climb in October of 2017. And he was the host. It was 29029 was the actual event. And on the event register page, it said, you'll find your soul, doing this challenge. And the whole concept was really taking away, the things that he had learned on his journey and teaching them to other people as a result of really setting, what would be considered like a really big goal, like Mount Everest, climbing Mount Everest, if you will. And, I think in the book, that's another commonality is there's, how do you get out of your comfort zone, right? So like a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, there's things that we need to do this week that, we want to put them off. We don't want to do them. I think the relationship with Goggins and Itzler is, Itzler has to do whatever he says without saying no, right? And what that means is getting outside of your comfort zone. Let's say in your mind you have planned to work out tomorrow at noon and you go to bed at midnight and you get a knock on your door. Probably not even a knock, but you get a whisper in your ear saying, hey, it's 2 a.m., snowing outside, get your shoes on, we're going running, right? And, I think they referred to it as game on, right? And so, part of the getting out of your comfort zone, but also being able to control your mind and the story that you're telling yourself, I think that's a good illustration in the book. For me, I remember when I was reading this book, I was in the process. I'd been inspired by kind of the backstory and learning a little bit more about David and Jesse. I got inspired to do my own, hard thing, if you will. So for me, that was obviously I did the 29029 challenge, which was certainly hard. But the second thing was I decided I was going to try my go at a ultra marathon, which was 100K. I think that came out to about 62 miles. But one of the things that I realized was, it was when you're training to run 62 miles, there's days on a Saturday you might have to run 29 miles, and you have to get that in. Obviously, overcome the kind of the after effects of the lactic acid and the soreness of pushing yourself to the limits. Obviously, you have to hit a lot of personal records if you haven't never done that before. So you're consistently setting this goal and moving it out, setting the goal, moving it out. In the book, I know there's a day where they go running and it's like 14 degrees. And, David basically says, it's 70 degrees and sunny out. And he's talking, what he's telling himself in his head. And, I've had that same experience. I've had the experience where, your mind starts to focus on all the things that are wrong, the things that aren't going as planned, it starts to create this narrative. I started getting more aware around the exercises I could use when my feet hurt, when I wanted to stop, when I thought I couldn't go any further. And so the book it will inspire you to work out. If you're not working out, I think it will inspire you. But it's not going to inspire you because you want to lose weight. It's going to inspire you because it's going to give you the awareness around really the mind game that takes place with ourselves when we're trying to do something that is considerably, considered to us to be hard. Hard is a relative term, right? So like what could be hard to you might not be hard to me. But at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of takeaways. Simplicity, there's a lot of things. If you follow Goggins at all, he does a lot of calisthenics, a lot of chin-ups, push-ups.
The most important step we'll ever take in life is our next one. But a lot of us get our feet stuck in concrete. We get our feet stuck in concrete because we're afraid to make enemies. We're afraid to speak what's on our mind. We're afraid of being in that group of people. And when you walk away, we're afraid of what they might say behind your back.
Things that a lot of the times, maybe there's somebody out there that thinks they need a gym membership. Maybe they think there's a certain website that they need to invest in. And whatever that is, I think Goggins has a unique way of putting that in perspective of, he's able to do these unreal, accomplishments when it comes to endurance sports. And, he's able to do it by, riding a bike in his hotel room to, going out on a run. I think the main thing is that you can tell that he's committed. Like he literally doesn't even give himself time to think about not exercising, right? And so the book is good. I had the opportunity to meet David Goggins before he wrote the book, You Can't Hurt Me. Little backstory there. I worked out with him at a CrossFit and then ended up exchanging phone numbers, reached out to him. He was the mindset coach for the Texas Rangers. This would have been, I'm going to say 2017, 18. And anyway, one of the things that we did was we went to a Joe Rogan comedy show. And, there was a lot of cool things about meeting him. He hadn't written the book. He was only in Living with the Seal. A handful of people recognized him when we were walking to the venue. Actually, we went to the UFC fight the next day. And a lot of the security recognized him. I remember him saying, yeah, I went to jump school with that guy, this guy. But yeah, it was very interesting. I think the cool thing about, the experience of meeting with him, I did look over at him at one point during the fight. And I said, hey, man, because I had just written Digital President, which was about why you should write a book. And I was writing in one of the chapters, there's a chapter on authority. And I share the backstory about, when I first got introduced to Goggins through a book and the influence that had on my life and some of the behaviors that me and my buddies did, replicating some of the scenes, if you will, from the book. And I thought it was kind of funny. And, it would be like a kid watching, Superman, the movie, and then going and making a makeshift cape. And in the book Authority, I was pointing out, through the power of story and their backstory and the narrative that they laid out in the book, how David Goggins had accomplished his authority, meaning he became authority on a subject matter that I was interested in, which was personal development. And I asked him, I said, hey, David, you ever thought about writing a book? And he looked over at me, I'll never forget. And he said, I don't think anyone would want to read the book that I would have to write. And he ended up writing the book, You Can't Hurt Me, did it in a very unique way where each chapter of the book also has like it's read by he's the author, but it's read by the person who co-authored it. I don't know what they actually were considered, if they were considered a co-author or a ghostwriter, but I know he worked closely with the guy. And then at the end of each chapter, they turned it into almost kind of, if you've ever heard David speak, he has a real raspy, very interesting voice. Very captivating voice. And so he goes back and tells the stories of, I think one of them was going to Ranger school and how he set out to do this big run and got lost, went the wrong direction. But the point being is that in the book, there's a really good, healthy mix of story and then, some bonus content that's kind of more of a podcast that goes along with it, kind of like Digital President. I consider it's not a course. We'd call that a companion course, something that goes with the book that explains everything as you go through the book and helps put it into context for you. But it's a very good book. You Can't Hurt Me. Highly recommend it. And also Living with the Seal. I think that I think no matter what you have going on, if something in your life is sucking your focus, or maybe has you having disempowering thoughts, or maybe you just need to get your mind right. You've been wanting to get back in shape, but you have these set of bad habits. I think the book has a different way to help you just become the best version of yourself by really giving you some context to some of the stories and narrative. And you can't hurt me. There's a lot of different exercises actually in each chapter that's really built around mindset. So if you haven't had a chance to check them out, make sure you go check out Living with the Seal and You Can't Hurt Me by my buddy Jesse Itzler and David Goggins. Two individuals out there that are completely different, but the same. When I say the same, they're very inspiring, and I think that their intentions are to make the world a better place, and they do that through sharing their story. So go check out both of those books if you haven't had the opportunity, and I hope you enjoyed this brief mental model book review.